I got a message from a client last month. She was properly freaking out. What had happened was she paid her accountant, like we all do, over the years, thousands and thousands. Fees leaving the account every month and then the big ones at the end of the year. And she hadn't really given it much thought. And this year she'd scraped together a really big tax bill and paid it. And then felt the relief of having had that done. And immediately another bill showed up. A fresh one, it felt like. There was this number on it that she couldn't make sense of based on what she'd been told, what she'd heard, and she couldn't square it with the one she just paid. So she froze because she didn't understand where it had come from, whether it was right, whether she'd done something wrong, or maybe she was about to do something wrong. So we sat down and we went through it together, slowly. What we found out was that there was no error. She did have to pay the tax, sadly. Her accountant wasn't getting things wrong at all. It was that in all these years of meetings, never once had they turned any of it into language that she could follow. So they'd talked provisional tax, terminal tax, thresholds and timings and journals and all of this stuff, accruals, you've heard it all before. She'd been nodding along, as we do, the whole time, taking the advice, acting on it, and had never been handed the one thing she needed to question any of it. Because you can't push back on an advice or strategy if you are never allowed to understand it. I want to take apart that nodding, because that nodding is actually not what it looks like. It looks like she didn't understand the numbers. This person is not stupid about her business. In fact, they've got multiple businesses. She's built a whole thing. She's great at what she does. Phenomenal. The nodding was a script she thought she had to follow. And in the script, it says your job is to receive said expert's advice and comply with it. Sit nicely, be a good client, and don't waste the clever person's time with your basic questions, because they went to university for this. Now, none of us wrote that script. We inherited it all. The problem with us nodding along with expert advice that we're giving is that it's costing us way more than the advice they then hand us for the stuff we never understood. We really want to change the way we go into that room. There's a distinction here that we really need to make. And it's the distinction between doing your business and governing it. Doing it is the work, day to day, week to week. Governing it is your ability to see the whole picture clearly enough to make the right calls and, more importantly, ask the right questions, particularly of the experts you've hired. You are the owner, so your job is not to understand the tax law as well as the accountant. You're a business owner. Unless you're the business owner of an accountancy firm, it's not your job to understand the tax law as well as the accountant. But it is your job to understand your own business well enough to govern it and to make the people that you're paying for their expert advice turn their expertise into something you can actually decide from, language that you understand. Same goes for lawyers, bookkeepers, digital agencies, web builders, anyone you've ever paid for something because they're the expert while nodding along to something you couldn't follow, or you couldn't follow all of it. If we think about the scaffolding analogy for a bit. Scaffolding goes up so the building can be built and then it comes down. That is the whole point of it. Scaffolding that never comes down. There's no longer support for the finished building. It's just an ugly, very expensive cage that had good intentions when it got started, but it's not working now. We talk about it with our team, right? We put some resources around them, scaffold it up, and then want to take it down so they can go. But scaffolding that never comes down isn't support anymore. If you've got any advisors in any part of your business where their work leaves you a little more dependent on them every year, a little less able to read your own business without them, that's not scaffolding. Now they've become the structure and your business and you have become the thing that cannot stand on its own. Taking back the authority to govern your own business in the rooms that you're paying for is not rude or arrogance, and it doesn't make you stupid. It's you remembering that you own the thing, and the owner never ever nods along in a room. She funds. She runs it, warmly. But she runs the room. You run the room. Next time someone you pay says a sentence you don't follow, say the thing that old script forbids. Walk me through that again, because I need to understand it, not just hear it. Then watch who on your advisor team lights up and who shifts in their seat, ready to help you. A good one will be so glad you asked. One who's been keeping you dependent on them will be really uncomfortable. And that discomfort is information you have been paying not to receive. It's so important that every expert, every advisor that you pay does the job of translation from expert language into something you can understand and use and question in your business, whatever that might be. Sometimes it's the accountant with tax. Sometimes it's legal advice. Sometimes it's human resources advice with all the employment law. It's their job to take their language, their expertise, their knowledge, and put it into something that you can take and use to make well-informed decisions inside your business. If they don't do that translation piece and you're left in the dark, we're probably sitting in the wrong rooms, or you haven't asked that question yet. Before we go, oh, they're bad advisors or they're not doing a good job, now becomes your time to step into that governing role and go, hey, I didn't quite get that. I'm not sure what that word means. What does that mean in reality when you leave and I'm left holding this decision in my business, whatever that might be? Because the moment you stop nodding along to be polite, us good girls, we were taught to, yeah, you're going to start asking some questions that enable you to make better, well-informed decisions that work for you now and in the future, for your team now and in the future, for your family now and in the future. Without it, we're just becoming more and more dependent on these advisors and not actually able to make or build a business or life that's built for generations. Just like we don't want our team or our kids or partners to be dependent on us, we don't want to be dependent on advisors that haven't translated for us. We want to grow and understand more as we go along. This is one I loved getting. My accountant is really good, but I never actually understand why he's done what he's done, even when he tells me. I feel like it's rude to ask him to explain it, like I don't have his degree. Rude. It's a really interesting word to use, that it might be rude to question someone to explain it different. You're thinking that clarity is rude. You think it's impolite to require the person that you've paid for good advice to make themselves understood. I actually want to flip it. I want to say to you, I think it's the absolute opposite of rude. I actually think that we're being rude and disrespectful when we don't ask. When we don't ask these questions, we're being disrespectful of the advice and the expertise that we're sitting down in the room with. Because I'd like to think that most great experts, if they thought you didn't understand, would be horrified. The problem is that in the rooms you're sitting in, when you nod along, this is the universal signal for I understand things. The words that are coming out of your mouth, okay, I get it. I agree. You have to, one, stop using your body language to say something that isn't actually what's going on, and two, use your words to ask some questions to get this right for you. When we ask this question and we ask people to explain it in words a smart 12-year-old could understand, it's the most respectful thing you can do for them and for you. Giving people a vague nod, think about it in your world. If you ask a team member to do something or even a client and they nod along and inside your body and brain you're thinking they're not getting that at all, even if you ask them, did you understand that? They're going to say yes. It's helping no one. When you're in the expert chair, you loathe it when people nod along and agree and go, yes, I understand. When you know inside that they're not getting it, whether that be an employee or a family member or a client or a customer, you wish the people in your world would do you the courtesy of asking the question. So it's the absolute opposite of rude. Communication has 3 steps to it: a message being sent, a message being received, and a checking of understanding. He's not being helped by you nodding along, pretending that you understand, because it means that the full loop of communication didn't happen. If you don't understand it, you can't govern the stuff, because if you don't follow it, if you can't ask questions, if you can't get into it and go, what does this mean for me today and in the future, then how can you make a great decision? You don't want to be the client where someone thinks, I gave them all the information and they said they understood it and then they went and did something totally wrong with it. He's good. You've said in your question that he's good. Then I believe, and you should believe, he will rise to the question. Try this one out. Just curiously, warmly, I want to make real decisions off this. So I need to properly understand it, not just trust that what you're saying is good. Can we go a little slower and in language a smart 12-year-old would understand? If he's as good as you say he is, this is going to be the favorite meeting he has all week. And if it's not, if he doesn't like you asking the question, then you've probably learned something worth far more than the fee you're about to pay. One question this week for you and your business. In how many rooms around your business are you paying to be kept ever so slightly in the dark? Some of the information is clear, but the rest is a bit fuzzy. Just find one of those rooms, book in a call, book in a follow-up, and bring the questions you swallowed down, the ones that you actually need to ask, the ones you thought you were too polite to ask. Well, we've just clarified it was actually rude. One small thing before you go. I'd love it if you could give the show a follow. So the next one just turns up without you having to come looking for it. And if you know the room you need to walk back into and you're feeling really unsure of how to run it, then let's jump on a call. That's what a fit call is for. It's there if you want it. Next week, we're going into something that I always feel like it stings a little bit. Probably in a useful way though. We're going to talk about the economy and the very human habit of blaming it for the hard years while taking full credit for the good ones. And why that lopsided story you keep telling is keeping you from ever knowing what you actually built. Till next time, stay Moxie.